Trevor's given people over 50 the opportunity to experience life on two wheels. If it wasn't for him, people like us, 50 plus, we wouldn't even be able to ride them. I mean, he has kept Harley-Davidson alive in Canada.
He's great, yeah. Living legend.
Yeah, he probably would be. He'd be a living legend. Ooh, God, I'd hate him to hear that.
Anybody that rides knows Trev Deeley.
He's done more probably for Canadian motorcycling than any 10 other people. I hate saying these nice things about him.
Trev Deeley is Mr. Motorcycle Canada. There's no doubt about it.
I don't care what you ride, just ride. People wonder why I still ride, because, you know, I am getting on. Well, I'm 77, and except for arthritis, I like to think I'm young. I enjoy it as much today as I did 20 years ago. You get on it, and it's a different feeling. You're in the fresh air. Generally speaking, you got a pal or two along with you. You're going for a ride.
I don't think Trevor and I could sit down and have a conversation for 10 minutes without motorcycles coming into the picture. He just lives, eats, sleeps, breathes motorcycles, still to this day. Harley-Davidsons in particular.
I always rode Harleys, and the reason was I loved Harleys. I liked them. They fit. They could go. They were heavy. They handled well. I could broadslide a Harley at 100 miles an hour on pavement, and other people would just be astounded because it just can't be done.
Is he the superior rider?
Yeah. I just plain loved motorcycles when I was 7, 8, 9 years old. I used to get shooed away from my dad's store down on Broadway because I would have my little nose up against the window looking in, but he wouldn't allow me to go in. Well, there were several different makes in there, but I was only really and truly in love with and concerned about was Harley-Davidson. They were a distinct appearance, a distinct everything, and Harley-Davidson was one of the oldest lines that the family had starting in 1917. I can't remember the first time I sat on a Harley, but it was 1922 and I was 2 years old.
It's assumed that Trevor's father set him up in the motorcycle business, and there couldn't be anything farther from the truth than that. Trevor did this himself, without his father's help. As a matter of fact, his father got in the way a lot.
I started with the firm in '35 as sort of a flunky, and I did a little bit of everything.
He has worked everything in it. He worked for his father here. He did mechanics. He worked parts. He worked sales. He worked the boutique, the clothing, the whole bit.
And I was always the favorite in that store. I mean, not because I was the owner's son. It was just because I had a sense of humor. I enjoyed life. Come to work in the morning and come into the shop and drive down the driveway and drop it in a full slide and go right into the workshop and lift it up like this. And everybody's scrambling and think they're going to get run over. So I had a good, fun life that way. My dad, he didn't have the passion for the fun aspect of motorcycling. He was strictly business. And, you know, in those days, there was a lot of lumber, timber work up the coast, mining, fishing, and the motorcycle owners would go away for several months and leave their bikes in storage. Well, some of them, for some reason we don't know, never came back. And in those days, you couldn't take a motorcycle that was left in your care and relicense it and sell it. You had to destroy it, cut it up by the pound and sell it for 50 cents a pound. Well, one day I said, you know, this is ridiculous. We should be saving this stuff. It's going to be old someday. And he wouldn't have any part of it. So everything I saw in those days that I thought was going to have some value in the future, I hid them. And I guess I got 25 or 30 or 40 bikes away. And then from there on, we sort of evolved, and we got bigger buildings, and I had more place to hide this stuff. Now, everything you see in this museum is 264 motorcycles. That's how it got started. I have a birthday every 12 months. I hope to Christ I see this finished before I have my next one.
Well, I'll drag it out a little bit longer here.
But you're doing a great job.
Oh, when you see people walk in the door, you hear lots of oohs and ahs. Just even if you don't like motorcycles, it's a big shiny place.
I really think what it gives me is a great satisfaction. I enjoyed all aspects of motorcycling, and I find it very difficult to state which one I enjoyed the most. Except for racing. I enjoyed racing definitely the most. I just had to go racing. If there was a race within 1,500 miles on a weekend, I was there. I had national number 22, and I won a lot of races. And in 1948, I won $8,000 racing and 22 races in a row. So I thought that year in particular, I was pretty good.
Well, the key to his success, undoubtedly, is heads down perseverance. You know, he gets a goal in mind. He's focused. Like in 1957, he decided to become the first Canadian distributor for Honda motorcycles.
I wanted to get the distributorship now, but I didn't want a motorcycle until I saw one. So they shipped me one free of charge. And it just looked absolutely beautiful. And there were so many different things about it. The fenders had valances, the headlight was square, the handlebars were square, turn signals, front and rear, something that we'd never had before. And it just was a far cry from what we'd been used to. My grandfather and my father came over to look at it a couple of days later, and they called me into the office the next day and told me to sell it and not bring any more Japanese motorcycles in. So I said, well, Dad, I'm going to quit. I'm going to go borrow money from somebody, and I'm going to bring these motorcycles in myself. The next morning they called me back again and said, okay, I could do it, but I was making a big mistake. The irony of this picture is this is my grandfather, this is my father, and they're both sitting on Honda motorcycles. These are the two guys that told me that I could not sell Honda motorcycles.
As it turned out, Trev was right and his protagonists were absolutely wrong. Honda sold extremely well in the early 60s. And it really, I think, kept the Deeley organization profitable over those years where things were tough.
Honda became very dictatorial, so we negotiated with Yamaha, and although I only had Honda for Western Canada, I got Yamaha for all of Canada. And I ran Yamaha until we sold out to the factory in the early 70s. And it was on a Friday night. On the Monday morning, I went to work and I got a phone call from Walter Davidson. He said, hi, Trev, Walter, what the are you doing? He says, I heard you sold Yamaha. I said, yes, we did. He said, well, I want you to take on Harley Davidson for Canada. I mean, if you ever saw a guy go up into Cloud 9, I was one, because here's a chance to not only continue to sell what I loved, but instead of selling 200 a year, 150 a year, here's a chance to sell thousands.
I mean, you want to work for Harley Davidson in Canada, it's Trev Deeley you're working for, basically. He is the importer-distributor of all Harley Davidsons in Canada. He's reasonable, man. He's willing to listen, but you better be able to back up what you're telling him.
Oh, that's the way I'd like mine to work.
No, sorry, I got all the free play out.
Trevor's management style is totally hands-on. He gets involved in absolutely every facet of the business, particularly as it pertains to our dealers.
That's a nice jacket. I just tried it on, but I find some of the stuff is, the sizing is not uniform. Right now I'm chairman, but you know, at my age I shouldn't necessarily have to come over here a couple of times a week, but I miss it if I don't. I try to give them advice that they don't want to hear. I've been mad at 3 guys in here already today.
He's supposed to be retired, but I don't think he's ever going to retire. Motorcycles are his passion, and he loves it. He just can't keep his hands off.
I've got a life that I think has been more exciting and more broad than a million people. I'm comfortably financially well off. I've got 3 homes, a wonderful wife. I got 9 cars. I got a bunch of motorcycles. I have an extremely good life, and all I can say to people is it's too late, but you should have followed me.